I should have known right when she walked into my office that there was trouble. Maybe it was the look in her eye, or maybe it was my 15 years on the job. But as Amy began to tell me her story, my suspicions were confirmed. Amy was dealing with what I call a Bounca. That's a customer payment that's been returned for insufficient funds. I asked Amy to sit down and tell me her tale. She was pretty stressed out. She thought she had done the right thing. She thought she was handling the books pretty well. But the bank was calling. Her account was negative, and she didn't understand what had happened. I asked her to walk me through it. Amy took me back to the date of May 8th, 2018. Craig's Landscaping and Design Services had recently collected a $3,000 payment from Jeff's Jalopies on an open invoice for the installation of some concrete fountains. They were happy to receive the payment because Craig's Landscaping and Design owed $2,500 to the insurance company for workers' compensation. This amount was due, so after Amy deposited the $3,000 at the bank, she dropped a check off at the insurance agency. Everything looked like it was on the up and up because once the deposit went in for $3,000, they could cover the $2,500 check written to the insurance agency and still have a little over $1,700 to spare. But just 2 days later, that's when all heck started breaking loose. Amy got a call from her bank. It turns out that the $3,000 check written to Craig's Landscaping and Design Services from Jeff's Jalopies stunk to high heaven. That thing bounced like a rubber ball, and now she was short the cash. Fortunately for Amy, she had a good relationship with her bank. They covered the check that Craig's Landscaping and Design had written to the insurance company. I took some funds out of my cookie jar in the back and helped Amy get her account positive. In the black, they say. The only thing left to do was to send Amy over to her QuickBooks Pro advisor to make sure that they reflected these transactions properly in the register. And here's what her QuickBooks Pro advisor told her to do. Amy explained to her QuickBooks Pro advisor that her first instinct was to return to the payment received from Jeff's Jalopies and delete it. This is not the correct course of action. We're going to make a general journal entry. Click the Quick Create button and begin a journal entry. We will date that the same day that the check bounced. We'll use May 12th. We're going to put in a debit to the accounts receivable for the amount of the bounced check. Let's leave a note so we remember what happened. Check returned for insufficient funds. We need to be sure to indicate Jeff's Jalopies in the name so the accounts receivable is increased for the right customer. On the second line, we're going to note the checking account. We're going to credit it for $300 so the funds come out of the account. We're going to hit Save and Close. The next step is to go back to your customer file on Jeff's Jalopies. Locate the payment, click on it, and we're going to move the check mark from invoice up to journal entry. This will now open the invoice for payment on a future date and clear out the journal entry that you have just entered. We'll click Save and Close. The last step would be to modify the original invoice to include a charge for the insufficient funds. Guaranteed that Craig and Amy are going to have to pay a fee to the bank, it seems appropriate to pass that charge along to Jeff's Jalopies. We're going to add a $35 fee here. You can see that the total goes up to $3,035 and Save and Close. So let's take a look at the register and see how these most recent transactions have affected it. You'll see here the $3,000 coming back out of the checking account. This is the bounce check from Jeff's Jalopies. A second transaction, a $35 fee that's come in from the National Bank of Mountain View for the return check charge. I mentioned earlier that the bank honored the check issued to the insurance agency, that remains in place. The last is the little bit of money I took out of my cookie jar so Amy could get her account to a positive status, $416. We put this on the book as a loan payable. And one last piece of advice. Don't count your chickens. Bounces happen sometimes. It can take 3 days for funds to clear a bank. Don't pay your expenses until you know the funds are good. Rely on your QuickBooks Pro advisor to help out anytime you need. This is Beth Melcher with MoneyFit. Thanks for listening.